All coaches aspire to be champions, and this time of year is when you set that vision for your team. By now, listeners of this podcast know about signature championship rings and have met some of the signature champion coaches who partner with them to celebrate their achievements. Reputable, affordable, first-class customer service are just some of the ways we keep hearing coaches describe signature championship rings. So as you're ramping up this summer for the upcoming season, create a championship vision for your team now using the design tool at sigaturechampions.com/podcast. Give your team a visual to motivate their pursuit of a championship in 2024. And when your team has a championship moment to celebrate, we highly recommend consulting with Signature Championship Rings.
You know, I tell my players all the time, you didn't choose to be talented. That's between your parents and God. You didn't have nothing to do with that. You weren't there. But the ability or willingness to strain is a choice. To be selfless, to go out and put your body on the line for your teammate, for your team, that is something that we acknowledge and we reward in this room. And so we want to be the hardest playing offensive line in the country.
In this segment from his presentation at the 2024 C.O.O.L Clinic, LSU offensive line coach Brad Davis discusses his coaching philosophy, focusing on preparing learners for long-term success by developing critical decision-making skills and a deep understanding of the game's principles. He emphasizes creating a seamless learning environment from the classroom to the field using visual aids, movement-based teaching, and individualized education plans. Encouraging effort, communication, and a culture of relentless preparation through coaching acronyms like PEAK prepares players for the optimal performance in high-stakes games like those in the SEC. The holistic approach aims to instill adaptability, teamwork, and continuous learning essential for success on the field. The link to his entire presentation from the C.O.O.L Clinic is in the show notes. Stay tuned for our Winning Edge takeaways following the clinic segment. What you see on tape is a direct reflection of what you teach and how you teach. Video is important, but if you don't teach well, you're not going to like what you see on your video. First Down Playbook has been helping coaches teach better for 13 years. It allows you to present installs, playbooks, and practice cards in half the time with NFL quality. Coaching tools like video pairing, a player app, practice schedules, and wristband sheets have made First Down Playbook a program management system with everything in one place. If you're in a position of leadership with your football program, receive a free 1-week look at First Down Playbook. Call them at 512-814-6158 or visit them on their website or social media. Mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code COACH24 to receive a $100 discount off the normal $700 First Down Playbook team membership price. Links and the phone number are in the show notes. As coaches, we know that some of the biggest hurdles to our team's success can come from off the field. Your team needs support to tackle the endless list of expenses, uniforms, training equipment, travel, and more. But raising that money can feel like a full-time job. Thankfully, there's Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with a local fundraising coach who works with your team every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser. With options for online donations, digital discount cards, premium product sales, and even spirit shops, Vertical Raise has top-of-the-line solutions for every fundraising style. To find out more, visit verticalraise.com and we'll get you connected with an exclusive offer on your first fundraiser.
As we get into this piece here, I want to talk about, I'll segment it and talk about the progression that we take here at LSU with our team and with our players in particular, right? And so the first piece is preparing the learner, right? And so coaching, what is it, right? You heard me say it already before. Coaching is teaching. And there's a difference between coaching and teaching rather than training, all right? We're not here trying to train our players, all right? That's not what we do. My goal every day is to teach, is to incorporate a long-term understanding of what it is that they're doing. More importantly, I want my guys to understand the why in what they're doing, why it's important, how it affects the big picture. More importantly, why it's important for them to do it right. I don't major in the training aspect, which is teaching short-term skills that are applicable only for a short time. I want to lay a foundation for my players, where they're capable of applying any principle that we may teach them, right? And so from a philosophical standpoint, you can see here at the top, the first thing that I strive to do is develop the ability for my guys to make critical decisions. We're talking about, a football play being anywhere from 4 to 6 seconds, and my guys having the ability to critically think, to take chances, and to have a sense of confidence in the decision that they're making based on their knowledge. I want to develop players who are interchangeable between positions and sides, where I don't have a left tackle or a right guard in the program. I want guys that have position flexibility. When I go out and recruit, I'm looking for guys who have the measurables and movement skills where they can play multiple positions. I don't want a exclusive position in my room. And so that means guys have to have big picture awareness. They've got to know their role in particular and then what's going on around them. And so that's a piece of our philosophy here. We want to be able to adjust to new fronts, pressures, movement patterns, things that we may or may not have practiced a whole lot during the week. Here in the SEC, there's always going to be a curveball. There's going to be some third down pressure, something that a defensive coordinator is going to do to attack us. And so I want my guys to have answers and not have to feel like they've got to start from scratch. The next two pieces here, right, is teaching our guys the tenets of scheme, making them understand, what makes plays work, gap schemes, zone schemes, man schemes, and making sure they understand the principles that follow those. And then the last piece is recall, right, the ability to call a play, and our guys can execute it based on what the principle is. Those are where we begin. All right. And so now, as you guys have a picture of where our progression begins, now I want to talk about the learning environment, right? And our classroom piece. This to me is where, you can separate yourself, as a coach with your players, a level of production is their ability to go from the classroom to the grass, right? And that's something that we strive for on a daily basis. And so, in my time, I have ventured to really catering to my guys who are active learners, right? And so this is what I believe, to be true is that the amount of retention, right, that happens for our players, right? A lot of it happens right by doing it, right? And then having the ability to teach it to others, right? And so you can't truly teach something unless you understand it, right? And so with the child or the kid that we're coaching today, the standing on the board and just, lecturing and showing, player drawings and cut-ups for that matter, there is value in that and it has to be done. But a lot of what we're looking for, has to be guys, moving while they're doing it, right? Walking and talking and having the ability to go out and truly apply what it is that's being taught, right? And so from a classroom standpoint, right, every inch of my space in this room is utilized, right? So board space, desk space, I want to have visual aids. As a part of the classroom piece, we're always checking for retention. I don't ever want to move on to a new point until I can ensure that my learner has grasped the last point that we made, right? This is probably, I bolded this one here. Obviously, it's important to me is keep the learning environment entertaining, right? I want to make sure my players laugh daily. I don't think there's anything more important in getting your guys to value coming to meetings is knowing that they're going to get a chance to share a laugh. And so that's something that we really take advantage of. And then this last piece for us is really important. I get kids from all different learning backgrounds and learning abilities. And so I'm able to utilize here at LSU, the help that we have with our grad assistant and our analyst, where I create IEPs for my players, right? And when I say IEP, what that means to me is just finding and identifying how it is that the player I teach learns, and then identifying what resources we have to help them with that. And so for us, some of our guys, we take them in small groups, where I may have my analyst take them into another separate meeting room and can, talk through the installation or make the corrections from the previous practice where they don't get lost in a group setting. I also have several guys that I have my analyst and GA sit in the room with them, next to them, right, to help them with note taking, to make sure that they're able to, keep their eyes up and ears open while I'm coaching and not have to spend time taking their eyes from the board to their paper, right? And so we try to help them with that as much as we can, right? And so you look at my position meeting room, the organization of it, number one, is important. And I know guys do it all different ways. Some guys put their starters, first, second, third team guys in a row. I've gotten away from that. What I do now is I try to be meticulous in identifying who are my vocal guys in the room that can impact others around them. And then I try to surround them with guys who can come to them and ask questions. I think that's something that's important to me is I want there to be offensive line chatter in my room. I want guys to feel comfortable asking questions. And if it's not from me, then I want it to be from one of the other stronger learners in the room. And so I've been meticulous about that in creating an environment where we can have football-related conversations and not just me lecturing the guys. The other things we talk about here, I know you may or may not be able to see it, but on each desk we have term sheets taped onto the desk. And so what I try to do is when we're having O-line conversations and a kid may forget what a term is or what it means, right? Instead of having to flip through their binder or notebook to find it, it's right there in front of them, right? And so I try to keep that information there. It's taped on their desk and laminated. So it's a cheat sheet. I want my guys to cheat. I want them to look around, not be distracted by wondering what it is that Coach Davis is talking about, right? And so those things are very important to me in our learning space, right? On the board, I try to create visuals, right? Coach Stoutland, back in 2017, I had a chance to visit him in Philly, and he talked about cold calls, where he began every position meeting with calling on his players and asking them verbal questions that forced them to visualize and be able to picture in their mind the scenario that he painted, and then asking them O-line specific questions about their assignment. And that's something that I've adopted. But more importantly, I want to give my guys visuals. And what I mean by that is if we're talking about running tight zone, versus a underfront or an under G, right? And hey, what's our emphasis when that backer on the backside gets, wider than a 30, right? What's that B block look like, right? Some guys can visualize that and they can tell you, where there's others that, completely get lost in space. And so I try to keep a visual based on game week where my guys can see that, right? And so we may talk about running tight zone away from a boundary wrap, right? And so, hey, what does that mean for you as a center, right? When you feel that backer loosening. The football conversations we want to have, right? We try to utilize the board space, the desk space, and more importantly, the seating arrangements where those conversations can be happening for our guys every day. That's important. And then the last piece for active learners, I know everyone doesn't have this, but for us, we have what's called a walkthrough room here. And you can see there's 4 projectors here, project a image on a wall. And so I'm able to line my guys up and be able to go out and walk through corrections, right? And so that's really, really big for me is, number one, I'm able to line up all my guys, right? So first, second, third team guys. So there's a correction that's projected on the board, and then my guys are able to go out and walk through that correction. So instead of, one guy hearing it and the other, 14 guys saying he's not talking to me, now everybody has a chance to go and walk through it. And so now it's as if I've corrected the mistake for every other person in the room, right? And so that's very important. I like to get our guys up and moving. I don't like to sit in the meeting room a long time and lecture to them, right? I want them moving and functioning and being able to apply the thinking piece, right, while moving from a physical standpoint. So those things have been great for us here at LSU. All right, now, teacher progression, right? So as we've gotten past the foundation, we understand the learning environment. The first thing for us is I'm really, really big on effort, all right? And I think that every O-line coach in this room is probably wired the same way. I tell my players all the time, you didn't choose to be talented. That's between your parents and God. You didn't have nothing to do with that. You weren't there. But the ability or willingness to strain is a choice, right? To be selfless, to go out and put your body on the line for your teammate, for your team, that is something that we acknowledge and we reward in this room. And so we want to be the hardest playing offensive line in the country. When people watch our film, I don't want people to say, hey, these guys are well coached or these guys are talented. I want them to say, I want the first thing to jump off the screen is that damn LSU line plays hard as hell. Okay, from whistle to whistle, consistently. All right, our guys are going out and playing with uncommon effort, and so that's something that we take a lot of pride in. And so our everything starts with that. There's nothing more important, from a fundamental or teaching standpoint. If I can't get my group to buy into that tenet of playing offensive line, then there's not much else value that I can bring to the table. And so we've been fortunate to have some young guys that have bought into that. As we have laid the foundation, right, we start with the basic piece that everyone does, understanding, the movement standpoint, gaps, field zones, defender alignments, et cetera. And then the last piece, right, of that is now the ability to communicate, right? And so it starts with this, right? Peak. All right, that is our coaching acronym for our players, and it encompasses everything that we do, on a given play. All right, and so we start with pre-snap, right? The P stands for pre-snap, and so as a young coach, I was a big proponent of finishing, right? Finish, finish, finish. That's what I constantly emphasize to my players. And now I'm the opposite. Start, start, start. There's nothing more important to the outcome of play than the start. Okay. And so what that means is my guys, it doesn't matter if you're a 5-star, no-star guy, you should be a master of everything pre-snap. And so that stance, right? It's your split, right? It's the being able to break the huddle effectively. It's knowing the snap count, right? And these are things that to me get under coached or get lost sometimes because we look at the big picture. And to me, these things have defined the outcome of a football play more than anything else, in my opinion. The next piece is eyes, right? And so as we've broken the huddle and we're at the line of scrimmage now, I want my guys to begin processing information. I don't ever want my guys looking down. I don't ever want my guys just aimlessly, approaching the line of scrimmage. I want my guys to be able to see what's going on around them. And so now that foundation we laid where they understand defensive structure, now for them, they should start to have premonitions of what's going to happen. I always want my players anticipating. Every time we talk, it's what do you think? What do you see? What do you envision happening before it happens, right? If you're reacting for us in the SEC, you're probably getting your butt kicked. The athletes on the other side are too elite for us to go out and have to react every play. We want to anticipate, and we want to take the fight to them, right? And so that's the next piece in our progression is our eyes. From there, it's affirmation, right? And so what that means to me now is our players' the ability to communicate. Our success playing offensive line is not tied into one guy winning or losing his job. It's pertinent to all 5 guys being able to go out and execute effectively, right? And so from an affirmation standpoint, there's a lot of time, all 5 guys are playing with their eyes, but I want our players to verbally acknowledge and more importantly, give credence or confidence to the guys around them that, hey, we all see it the same way. Whether it's moving the mic point, whether it's making an out call or going full zone, whether it's making a slow call, whatever the case may be, I want that to be affirmed. And so it's the next progression from our eye standpoint. The other affirmation piece is down and distance awareness, right? Always, segmenting the game and making sure our players know what's going to happen, at least what they think is going to happen based on the situation that we're in the game, all right? And so then the last piece for us is kick ass. All right, and that's everything from a fundamental standpoint that's been taught. The big thing for us when we talk about kick ass, right? Every play for us starts with the knuckle up, right? So our players will go out and the right guard will knuckle up the right tackle in the center. And for us, what that stands for is focus, refocus, right? And so whether the play we just ran, you did a hell of a job, you executed your assignment, right? We knuckle up and we focus on the next play. You may have had an unsuccessful play and it did not execute your assignment. Next play, right? So focus, refocus. And so that's where everything starts. And then we use all of our fundamentals to get into that piece of it.
Here are winning edge takeaways and ideas for implementation. 1. Emphasize teaching over training. Prioritize teaching your players the broader concepts and principles of the game. This approach helps players understand the why and how behind each play, fostering critical thinking and quick decision-making on the field. By developing versatile and adaptable players, you can create an offensive line capable of performing under various conditions. 2. Create a dynamic and engaging learning environment. A positive and interactive learning environment is crucial for player retention and engagement. Use visual aids, humor, and active learning techniques in the classroom to make sessions enjoyable and effective. Additionally, breaking players into small groups for personalized instruction ensures that each player receives the attention and support they need to succeed. And 3, prioritize effort and communication. Effort should be a cornerstone of any coaching philosophy. Emphasize the importance of playing hard and being selfless, regardless of talent level. Focusing on fundamental skills and clear communication, both verbal and nonverbal, helps build a cohesive and confident team. Utilizing acronyms like Coach Davis's PEAK as an example, which is pre-snap, eyes, affirmation, and kick ass, can guide players in mastering the basics, processing information, and executing plays with intensity. These strategies can help you develop well-rounded, confident, and adaptable players, ultimately leading to a more successful and cohesive team. I highly recommend this presentation from the C.O.O.L Clinic to help you get the winning edge in your coaching. It really applies to all positions, even though it's tailored to the offensive line. The link to it is in the show notes. Speaking of winning edge, are you ready to take your game to the next level? At Coach and Coordinator Podcast, we're on a mission to develop the 10% coach. That's why we've created the 10% Toolkit, your go-to repository for the latest and greatest products and services in the coaching marketplace. These resources are certified to help you win games and achieve all your program's objectives. Think of it as your buyer's guide, filled with trusted vendors and suppliers carrying our seal of certification. We've had detailed conversations with many coaches who successfully use these tools, ensuring they're certified and ready to elevate your game. We don't just certify products, we vet the innovators behind them. These entrepreneurs, technologists, and service providers are dedicated warriors for the game, just like you and me. While we can't check their financial statements, we ensure they embody the values of the 10% coach. So dive into the 10% Toolkit for helpful tips, a winning edge, and exclusive promotions just for Coach and Coordinator Podcast listeners. Explore these resources and find the tools you need to succeed. The link is in the show notes. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.